You are. You are the source of all creation. You are the blood, the water, quintessence of life. You are true to heart, great in depth, vital in power. My Lord, my calm, the source of all creation. You are the wonders, effervescent splendors of joy. My soul, my heart panting for you. You are my Lord, my peace, the source of all creation. You are tearing it down, the nuance, grief, abuse, and misuse. Kindred unto thee, no more dishonor, nor
The Creation by James Weldon Johnson. And God stepped out on space, and he looked around and said, I'm lonely. I'll make me a world. And as far as the eyes of God could see, darkness covered everything. It was blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp. Then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness rolled up on one side, while the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's good. Then God reached out and took the light in his hand, and he rolled that light around his hands until he made the sun. And he set that sun ablazing in the heavens. And the light that was left from making the sun, he gathered it up into a shining ball and flung it against the darkness, spangling the night with the moon and stars. Then down between the darkness and the light, he hurled the world. And God said, that's good. Then God himself stepped down. The sun was on his right hand, the moon was on his left. The stars were clustered about his head, and the earth was under his feet. And God walked, and where he trod, his footsteps hollowed the valleys out and bulged the mountains up. Then God stopped and looked and saw that the earth was hot and barren. So he stepped over to the edge of the world and spat the seven seas. He batted his eyes, and the lightning flashed. He clapped his hands, and the thunder rolled. Then the waters above the earth came down. The cooling waters came down. Then the green grass sprouted. The little red flowers blossomed. The pine tree pointed its finger to the sky. The oak spread out its arms. The lakes huddled down into the hollows of the ground. And the rivers ran down into the sea. And God smiled again. And the rainbow appeared and curled itself about his shoulders. Then God raised his arm and waved his hand over the sea and over the land. And he said, bring forth, bring forth. And quicker than God could drop his hand, fishes and fowl and beasts and birds swam the rivers and the seas, roamed the forests and the woods, and split the air with their wings. And God said, that's good. Then God walked around, and God looked around on all that he had made. He looked at his sun. He looked at his moon. He looked at his little stars. He looked on his world with all its living things. And God said, I'm lonely still. And God sat down on the side of a hill where he could think. By a deep, wide river he sat down. With his head in his hands, he thought and he thought. Until he thought, I'll make me a man. Up from the bank of the river, God scooped the clay, and by a deep, wide river, he kneeled him down. And there, this great God Almighty, who lit the sun and fixed it in the sky, who flung the stars to the most far corners of the night, who rounded the earth in the middle of his hands. This great God, like a mammy bending over her baby, kneeled down into the dust, toiling over a lump of clay until he shaped it into his own image. Then into it, he blew the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Amen. Amen.
Welcome to A Message from the Heart. I'm Brenda Bronner, and I am amazed at what has happened in my life on this past week, and I'm sure you've gone through some things on your own. I'm so happy that we're back together again. I could hardly wait for the broadcast. I have messed up on every intro that I've done, so I hope my associate producer does not fire me. We have a great show for you, and it's excellent. And the special part about this is it's a childhood friend of mine, and we've been together since well, at least I was 8. I won't tell her age, okay? I won't let you do the math on her. But this is a wonderful show, and this is something that will minister to you and will probably answer some questions that you may have as well for yourself. I'd like to introduce to you my dear friend, a good friend, just like a sister. We grew up together, but some things happened in years, separated us for a while, but we're back together again. Deborah and Blankumsee. She used to be Deborah Hudson for all those in Daytona Beach. This is Deb. This is Deborah Ann, as we all knew her. But now she's in Atlanta, and she's
in her second life.
Okay, okay, this is Deborah, right? She's already getting started. Put the mic up, girl. Okay, she said her second life. Okay, I guess we're all on ours, right?
Yes.
Deborah, say hello to our viewers.
Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you for welcoming us into your home.
And some of you are probably on your jobs or in your playrooms or whatever. We're so happy to be able to come into your home and to join our lives and our dreams and our visions and our goals with you. Deborah and Blankumsee. It's a joy, and this is really a dream come true for me. So for about 2 or 3 years, I wanted to be on the air with you, and mainly for one of your gifts. Give us a little background about you. Just tell them about you. I know enough about you. I probably know too much anyway, but go ahead, girl.
Well, I was born and raised in a Christian, God-fearing home. My father was a minister, and I had 2 older siblings, brothers, and our lives together were somewhat chaotic at times, but there's still a basis of love there that has always been there. And as the same goes for my friend, we call her Brenda, but she's been a lifelong almost friend of mine since we were children. We grew up together, went to the same schools, and same church. And there's good and bad in all of it. So.
Wait, you trying to say it was some bad in me?
Of course.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Deborah.
Anyway, and well, that's the spectrum of things is that there's good to life, and then there are the downsides. There are the negative things that come into our lives that beset us, that change course, that we have to detour. But through it all, been able to maintain a good relationship with the Lord. That is the reason that we've survived long enough to enter this second phase of our lives. I'll speak for myself, if for no one else. But that's the reason, that's who's taken me through so many downs and so many times of strife and chaos, and still be here to tell the story.
Amen. That is so true. Let me interrupt before you start preaching, okay?
You all notice that? That's her takeover spirit. She's been like this since she was a kid, okay? And we couldn't shut her up then. But I'm going to shut her up on this because this is my show, right? Your guest, right?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Deborah, where did you actually grow up and where did you go to school?
Well, the first 5 years of my life, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. But with the civil rights movement heating up, my father sent for me and my mother. And at that time, really, I hadn't seen my brothers but maybe twice in my lifetime when he had brought them up there for a visit. But then when it was time for me to go to school, he sent for me and my mother. And that was a time of change, too, that I was strictly opposed to at the time. But we moved to Daytona, where my brothers were already, because he kept them, because he said he didn't know anything about taking care of no girls. So
but he learned, right?
Yeah.
He learned, and I'm sure he learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's right. So we met you after you moved to Daytona Beach.
Right.
And it's been a whirlwind, ever since then. But you all seem like the perfect little threesome, little set of kids. And you all were so great in speech writing and speech making and dissertations and presentations. And we used to look at you and we would marvel, where on earth did they come from? Where did you get that? Which gene, was it mom or your dad that had you being able to speak so eloquently as a child?
I'm not gonna give credit. I guess if you looked at my father being a minister, used to speaking in public and whatnot, that we were looked at as, and then we were with him just about everywhere he went, when he went to different churches or places to speak. We call ourselves the part of the show, the front show.
What's a front show?
That's that's the program that precedes the actual sermon, or whatever activity is occurring at the event, because usually it's a special event if we were present, we were invited or whatever.
That's true. I do remember that.
So I guess a part of it came from actually being forced to the front, because that wasn't the natural milieu that I felt. But my brothers, I don't know. I never discussed this with them really, but I know Tim and I were more the laid back, don't want to be, but had to be up front. I think Tom kind of enjoyed it though, the oldest one.
Okay, I think I'll agree with that too, because growing up with the three of you, you all were very verbal and very much out there, but we couldn't tell you were forced into it. And I think a part of that has to do with all of us, because during that time when we were in church or in school, when the adults said you're going to do something, or this is the program, or this is what we're going to do, that's the hard part about pastoring now, because when people come to your ministry and they come with all of these I don't want to, I have the attitudes and all. We weren't allowed to give any of that. We didn't even know we had attitude until we were grown and on our own.
That's right.
But my mom, being the president of the youth department, and I don't know how, Mother, how did you get that position and you just held it? I mean, even the president gets voted out after 2 terms, but you held your position and held my sisters and I captive.
Yes.
That for years. So we always had to be on programs too, right?
Yes.
And we learned the speeches, we learned Sunday school, we learned everything, we did what we were supposed to do, but we still enjoyed our childhood.
That's right.
We still did, because I think because of the order and what have you, that we had to do. and which made us better in school.
Right,
You know,
that's right.
but after we became adults, you know, we did have the good, bad, the ugly, and all that stuff in between too. Let's get back to something. The church issue. A lot of people at this stage, I found out they are questioning a lot of things about the creation, about the world, about the universe, about the earth. And myself growing up in church, I don't think I ever questioned the creation, but I did question, why did he need me? Why was I born? And I get to that periodically. Have you ever gotten to that?
Yes.
Why did he need
from
me?
childhood? I always had I call it the off the wall quirky type question that in my mind that I would hold that within myself, but I wouldn't be so quick to present that, outwardly to someone else. But those are I call them the universal questions that I used to have. Like, if you're God, why did you need any of us? Why did you need the world? And then it's a question of, when you see things going so wrong in the world, and you're saying, and you know that God always has a purpose and he has a will. And so you just end up just surrendering the whole idea of questions, because I could never think like God. I could never do the things that God does. And so it's just a waste of time. I'm calling this the new donkey head.
Oh, okay. This is back to the sermon I
Yes.
about the donkey's head.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. With this being the donkey's head or whatever, what finally gave you your answers, or do you still have questions? And I'm sure a lot of the viewers, I'm sure a lot of you may not admit it, and I know a lot of people that I interact with, we all know God. We all know the Word of God. We know the work of God. We know the heart of God. We know the love of God. Just like this program is called A Message from the Heart. And God gave me a message from the heart because years back, I think it was 1997. No, it was way back before then. 27 years ago, maybe 27, 28 years ago. And the Lord dropped something in my spirit, and he said, I'm going to give you a message. And it's a message from my heart. So as far back, whenever I was doing anything regarding media, it was always entitled A Message from the Heart. Because I always vowed to give only the message from God's heart. That's what I give to everybody else. And sometimes that message is, hardcore. Sometimes it's soft core. Sometimes it's in between, but it's where the people are, it's where you are, it's where we are. But any message, I realize this, any message that comes from God, it's a good message. And Deborah is so known from childhood for a poem that you probably have already seen a little bit of the poem already, but which we're going to probably stretch out, in a couple of other series. And that poem is called The Creation. And I've never wondered about the universe. I never wondered why God needed other people. I used to wonder about me. And I can recall when I was 5 years old, I always felt invisible. And periodically, throughout my life, I still felt invisible. Why, I don't know. And I'm not trying to find any of those answers either, okay? Because I'm like the Apostle Paul. What was back there? Hey, it's back there, okay? I pressed and I moved forward. So I thank God for that, because God gave me a message to always keep moving forward and never look back. Because my childhood was good, my church was good, everything was good. Because God said everything that he made was good anyway.
That's right.
So everything that he made, the creation, the earth, this chair, the microphones in our hand, am I correct?
That's right.
Everything, he made and he did is good. And I want to just talk about that for a little bit. That poem, The Creation, when was the first time you ever recited that?
I was just, this is so remarkable, because just a couple of nights ago, I was thinking on this same line. I was thinking of Miss Long, the one who Miss Minnie Long. Uh, in third grade, she's the one who the whole class was taught the poem, and the only I was chosen to actually say it during the assembly that week. And from then on, and my father happened to, the parents used to visit the assemblies that we had on a weekly basis. I think we had them, and he heard me recite that poem, and from then on, he never let me rest from that. He couldn't believe, first of all, that I could learn that long a poem. And so from then on, he was the one always boosting me, always offering my services up to when he was invited somewhere to recite the creation, to show people that, so that was the...
Show people what? His daughter, how remarkable, how great.
And that part was the embarrassing part to me, was all the attention that that I received from it. But it was really an answer. The poem itself was an answer to some of the questions that I was already having as a child. Even at that young age, I was always full of questions. As a matter of fact, before I moved to Daytona, they had a nickname for me because I always had the question that nobody wanted to ask, but they talked about it.
What was your nickname? I'm curious. Because we called you something else, but go ahead. I'll tell you that after we're off the air.
Yes, they nicknamed me Miss Lightning. Because
okay.
they said, she would strike, with that question that nobody wants to answer.
Nobody wants to answer. That is really amazing because we never saw you or your brothers with questions. You all always seem to have had the answers, and that is the truth. And that's with growing up. But even after becoming your pastor and being around you as an adult. After, we were separated we hadn't seen each other for what, almost 30 years? It was about 30 years, right? We didn't know, she didn't know if I was still alive. I didn't know if she was still alive. But by God's sovereign hands, he brought us back together. Yeah. And the amazing thing is this, when they did my pastor's anniversary 2 years ago, Deborah surprised me, and she did the creation. And I was so beside myself. And I'm sure you all have enjoyed just that little piece too. So she will do the whole thing again, one day. Who knows? She might end up doing it for the president. Anyhow.
not hardly. Obama's leaving, remember?
Not on my show, you won't do that. The Creation by James Weldon Johnson. Now, this was the first time, this was an enlightenment to me. I did not know this started at school, Bronner Elementary. Yes. Now, I came behind you in Arlene, so I was in Miss Long's class too. But see, God knew not to give me, okay? There is no way in the world I could have done that. But after actually hearing it as an adult, as a mature adult, the creation, and knowing how much creativity God has placed on the inside of me. And God, I feel, has put creativity in everybody. In every person that's on this earth, God created and made. I really believe, I don't want to get ahead of myself with your poem, but when he touched us, he put a piece of himself in us. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what is it that you do? What's my purpose here? Why am I here? Those were questions I had for myself. And even at this stage of my life, God is unfolding dreams and visions that I had when I was a child, when I was pretending to be invisible, if you will. Yeah. And even in church today, we visited another church today, True Christ Outreach Ministries, where Pastor James Minor and his lovely wife, First Lady Elisa Minor. We went and visited them today, and he was talking about, going boldly before the throne.
Yes.
And I looked at the scripture, the passage in my Bible, and Deborah, I looked and I showed it to my grandson, to Frank, and I said, this was the second sermon I preached after I was ordained. And I looked, I said, oh my goodness, December 14th, 1997. So that was God's way of reminding me, and that I put this in you. But I just was not bold enough to do a lot of things because I didn't feel, confident.
Right.
I didn't feel competent. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel I could do a lot of things. So all the things that I'm doing now, everybody, that I've been doing over the years, people think, oh, she's so wonderful, she's remarkable, she has this big S on her. No, it's the big C, honey. It's the creation, okay? It's what God put inside of me, the same way God has put a lot on the inside of you. He put a lot in her. God is constantly creating.
Yes.
Because that's who he is. And the creation, let's look at that for a minute. Do you mind? Okay. You started out with what? And God did what?
Stepped out on space.
So when you said God stepped out on space, when you did the poem for us even a few weeks ago, when you said God stepped out on space, the first thing I thought about was God stepped out in space, on space for me.
Yes.
He stepped out with me in him. So there was a reason. And remember, I had to deal with suicidal spirits a lot and what have you. And I started feeling different on the inside.
Yes.
Just recently when you said, and God stepped out on space, and it's the way you step out too. It looks like she's actually stepping out on space. But it's like he when he stepped out on space, and then you said what? And he looked around and said what?
I'm lonely.
Okay. So even with that, God is using that poem. And this is how he spoke to me. I'm sorry, but it just seems like I'm taking over. But it's a message from the heart for you.
Yes.
When he said, I'm lonely, he said, so I need to make Brenda Bronner. He said, I need to make Deborah Blankumsee. He said, I need to make you. This is what God was saying way back upon creation. Because don't forget, we were already with him before he brought us into this sphere called time. He needed us. He needed us to create. He needed us to be his hands, his feet, his mouthpiece. So just think, I wouldn't even know this. And then what's the other part of it? What's the next verse?
And he looked around and said, I'm lonely. And as far as the eye of God could see, darkness covered everything. It was blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp.
And before he got to that part, he said, I'll make me a world. Do you know something? All this time, I've always thought, my sisters and I, we always, when we would mimic you, and we said, Deborah could really do this poem so great. Do you know, we used to say, God said, I'll make me a man. And I didn't know until a few weeks ago when you did. I said, oh, it was a whole world? God said he'd make himself a world? And that made me understand me a lot more. So I'm not in this by myself. You're not in this by yourself. I was so thankful, for that, for another awakening. This is why I always say we can hear, we can see, we can feel God. We can thank God in everything.
Everything.
I mean in everything. But that's up to you if you look for him.
That's right.
And he said as far as the eye of God could see. And while you were doing the poem, I'm thinking. So as far as the eye of God could see, and God, you're a God, you're almighty. You saw me.
Sure did.
You saw me. You saw her. He sees you. He sees all of us. He made this whole world. So God is able, the word of God tells us, I'm not going to preach, okay? I won't preach. But the word of God tells us that he goes to and fro. He's looking all over to see who it is he can bless. So just being in his presence. And I always want God to see me. I always tell God, don't forget, here am I am right here. Don't overlook me, just go ahead.
Yes. Oh, you more poem?
Yeah.
Oh. Then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness rolled up on one side, and the light stood shining on the other. Then God said, "That's good."
Okay, let me stop right there. First, God smiled. He smiled, and then the light broke. What happens when our light breaks? What happens in your life? Have you ever felt you were in a place with God, you were doing something with God, it just seemed everything was just going fine, and all of a sudden the light breaks, right? And then there's darkness rolled up on one side, okay, and then there's light standing shining on the other side, and there you are, there I am, there you are, there we are, we're in the middle. But don't forget, before the light broke, God smiled.
Yes.
And then he said, that's good. So let me ask you, have you ever been in a place like that?
I've been in a place that seems to predate when God smiled and light broke. There have been some really, really dark times. And
what did you do? That's my question. Because that's where everybody is now. Everybody's at this place, especially after the election. Okay. Okay. It's dark over here, but it's light over here. I'm happy over here, but I'm sad over here. It's good over here, but it's bad over there. Okay. What have you done? Because I'm going to tell what I've done.
I had to remind myself that the Lord said he would never leave me or forsake me. So I had to believe that even in that darkness, that he was there, and that somehow, some way, he was going to be able to lead me to the light. And so...
Okay, so you felt that God would eventually lead you to the light. Because in the poem, you say that God reached out and he took that light.
Yes.
He took it.
Yes, he took it.
He took the light into his hand.
Yes.
And then he rolled
it up.
He rolled it.
Yes, he did.
So oftentimes, do you ever look at the fact that when it's good and it just still seems like you feel like you rolled up in a ball? Are you still saying, okay, God, you got it, we good? Come on, let's be for real. I mean, this is a message.
No, it's not easy to come to that point right off the bat. That's a process. You might be able to grow to see some benefits. Okay, but while you being rolled, sometimes you don't know which side you're going to end up on.
Okay, but remember, it's God that's rolling us, because there have been times when God has taken my light, I feel, and had been rolling it around.
Right.
But then Brenda was over on the floor rolling too. Help! Where are you? Are you sure this is you?
Right. That's right.
Back to that process.
That's it. And a part of the process that I found, you can mess up God's process trying to help. It took me a long time to figure out that he was God, that he didn't need my help, because the help that I was given, supposedly given, was just making matters worse, So then he's got to first untangle you from a crisis situation before he can continue doing the rest of what he was already doing. So it can cause a lot of setbacks, really.
So you still going through some setbacks?
Well, I'm kind of on an even keel now.
Okay, well, while we're on this even keel, I want you to make sure that you stay tuned, because we'll be right back right after this message. And make sure that you remember that God is for you, and remember, God has a message from his heart to your heart. I'm Brenda Bronner, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Sister Deborah, come on in. Hey, baby, how you doing?
I'm
to the sermon today? You remember last week?
Yes, I remember.
Yes.
And I know we're going to get something good today, too.
That's right. That's
always do, you know.
God just knows how to move. And then the message, it flows through the whole week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
I know that's right.
Know. It gives you strength to make it from day one to the next time we see each other.
That's right. And then we'll pick it up, Bible study night. That's right. And we'll dig in, even deeper into that thing. Man, woo, I can't wait to hear it today.
I'm telling you.
All right.
Welcome back to A Message from the Heart. Again, I'm Brenda Bronner, and we're here with Deborah Blankumsee, our special guest today, who loves to recite the poem, The Creation. And we've been breaking down the creation, not just for you, but for ourselves as well. Welcome back, Miss Deborah.
Thank you.
I need to ask you a question. Do you have any children? Do you married? You have family? What's up? Just who are you?
Well, yes, I was married briefly. I had one son from that, and I have a daughter and 2 other sons. 3 of my children, 2 of the boys and the girl, are in Florida, and I got 1 in Texas. So.
Who went to Texas?
Jonathan.
Oh, congratulations. Hey, Jonathan. I hope you enjoy all that heat in Jonathan.
Yeah.
In Texas, Jonathan.
Hey, baby. Yeah.
Oh, what part of Texas?
Near Dallas and Anniston.
Okay, I know Anniston.
You know Anniston?
Yeah, because I lived in Fort Worth. Cherie was born in Fort Worth.
Yeah, he said he's doing pretty good. I'm praying. I'm thankful for the prayers that you and the others members of the congregation have been lifting him up. I'm just praying that he will go ahead and live within his purpose that the Lord has for him.
Okay, and that is so good. But you know me, right? Mm-hmm. You're praying that God will have Jonathan to live in his purpose. What about Jonathan's mother living in her purpose?
Oh, well, I've come to the realization, I think, that purposes change sometimes too. But my purpose, I believe, is to do the will of God and to serve in any capacity that He equips me to do so.
Okay, now I won't bust you out on TV, but I will say this. I'll be good. I'll be kind. Don't worry about it. I'll catch you afterwards. Now, your purpose. You said you would do whatever it is He would have you to do. You know there is a specific purpose. There's a specific calling on you to do things because you're multi-talented. We know this. But I do understand what you're saying because oftentimes you've said to me, I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. We all go through that.
Yes.
But God is a very definitive person. God is a very on-purpose God. He's, remember we were talking about the creation, right?
Yes.
So therefore, with the creation, God has been intentional in everything that He's done.
Certainly.
God was intentional in making us. God was intentional in what He's called us to do. He was intentional that He got you as a 3rd grader to do the creation.
Yes.
And He was intentional to have me to hear it. And He's been intentional in your life over the 30 years that we didn't even know each other still existed, but He intentionally put us back together.
Yes.
And that too was all a part of the creation. And that to me includes what? Purpose. So there was a purpose that God had in mind with the creation, with our families coming together as they did when we were growing up, and then for you and I reuniting the way God had us, to go.
Yes.
So to know that I still live, I still exist, I still move and do what I do, what God has called me to do. Lord knows, when I heard this thing about purpose, again, I felt, okay, let me be invisible. I got left out. But, God did not leave us out because, Hebrews, okay, I'm not going to preach, but Hebrews 11, and 6, it says what? That He is a rewarder of those that do what?
Diligently seek Him.
So by us being on this show, by us producing the show, this is another part of us diligently seeking God.
Yes.
Because whatever it is that we do, whatever it is that we say, and we're giving him the glory for it.
Of course.
Then that means we're still seeking him. That means others out there are seeking him too. And they'll be able to see a brighter light. They'll be able to see a clearer path because we did.
Yes.
We did, and we still are. And I've been, I used to prod you. I just stopped prodding today, by the way. But I've been prodding you for the few years we've been back together. Deb, do what God has called you to do. Get into the place, get into that space where God can use you.
Yes.
And you kept saying to me, but what? But what? And I would give you different things to do. And you would do them a little bit, and then you stop. Then sometimes, you play that invisible role on me and disappear, so I wouldn't grab you and wouldn't catch you. And, we do have a studio audience, and there's a certain person that's looking at her like, I can't believe Pastor's saying this to her on TV. Yeah, I got it, though. Okay. But anyhow, yes. But this is what happens when we're talking about a message from the heart, because we can't mask our hearts. Jeremiah even talked about our hearts. It's wickedly, it's deceitful. We don't even know our hearts, but we know the heart of God. God makes sure that we know his heart.
Yes.
So this is why I say it's a message from the heart, but the heart of God. And therefore, God had already pre-orchestrated for us to do this together. But who would have ever thought? You're an excellent writer. You're an excellent editor. You're an orator. You're an exceptional baker. You do a lot of things. You are an exceptional leader. But I'm sure there are some things that have happened to you in life that makes you wonder.
Yes, about the worthiness of filling all those roles. Some slots, I feel more comfortable in than others. As far as baking or cooking, that's my stronghold right now. I'm blessed to be able to be cooking for one of the members of our congregation. And I'm getting in touch with trying to see whether it would be worthwhile to invest in my baking skills and try to see if I can get that a stable enough product out to that would bring money to the ministry. With the vision, I know God must make the provision also in order for me to be able to do that.
But okay, excuse me, let me interrupt for a minute. You're cooking already. You're baking, you said, for a family here in the ministry,
yes,
right, who are in need right now,
right,
because of the medical situation. That God is just moving, and His hands are all into that. So, but you said you waited to see if you can invest something. You're already investing. You're already doing. You're not about to do.
Okay.
Remember when Jesus said it is finished?
Yes.
It was finished.
Yes.
Anything that we need to do, He said it was already finished. So if it's a God thing, if it's a God vision, God will make the provision. The same way that family needed someone to cook for them, He provided you.
Yes.
And the same as I wanted the creation to go out, to the world, I wanted you to be the one to do this because I grew up with you doing the creation, and it ministered to me. I had no idea you knew this, from school. I probably wouldn't have even talked to you during that time. I mean, wow, because it's really remarkable. And there's something else that I want to address too that you said. With the cooking, yes, that is a strong point that you do have. But you have so many other strong points. That's what we do. We have a tendency sometimes, because it's easier to do this one particular thing, It's easier to say, I can do this. Because
True.
guess what? Because it only involves you. It only involves you in doing the mix.
Right.
I'm in the process right now of writing a play, and it's called It's All in the Mix. So you're going to be in it, okay? It's all, since you like to be in the kitchen. But it's all in the mix.
Yes.
But whatever it is, since you enjoy being in the kitchen and you're saying, that's my comfort zone. But see, what God does with the creation, when God is creating, when God himself is creating something else on the inside of you, it's not just for you, but it's for someone else. It's for other people.
Yes.
To be a blessing someplace else.
Yes.
The creation, when God created, it was not just for him.
That's right.
He said, I'm lonely, I'll make me a world.
Mm-hmm.
But with this world, we're all united together. We all come together. We all blend together.
Yes.
It's like he takes an ingredient. You are an ingredient. This person is an ingredient. This world is an ingredient. Another nation is an ingredient. But we all come together for his purpose.
Yes.
All for his purpose. So you don't get off that easy by just saying, I'll stay in the kitchen. Because, you know, sometimes you can stay in the kitchen and it gets a little hot in there.
That's right. You have to come out.
Exactly. And when you come out, then when you come out, it's just like God when God said what? And he stepped out.
That's right.
So when God stepped out into space, when he stepped, because he's on the inside of us, the creator, so every time God steps with a new creation, with a new something, a new concept, a new idea within you, when God steps, I like to believe I'm stepping too.
Amen.
We're stepping together. And there are times when God says, I need to get ahead. I need to get in front of you, Brenda. I need to lead for a moment here so that you can see your way.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the poem, you know, when you stopped and you said, then God reached out and took the light in his hands. And then God rolled the light around in his hands. So there are times when I can feel this concept. I could like see the lightning, you know, and things just bursting in air, you know, bombs bursting in air. And do you know what I'll do a lot of times? I forget about God is taking that light in me. He's rolling it around, making it come together. Guess what I used to do? I'll stop and I'll say, not me. This is meant for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
This is for someone else who's worthy. Surely this couldn't mean me. But God has had to teach me when he impregnates me, he's the father of that baby. Come on, Deborah.
That's right.
So therefore, when it's time to give birth, it starts getting hot in the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It heats up. The contractions start. Well, you're a nurse. You know how it goes.
Yes. Now, that was something that I enjoyed, my nursing career, because I could see God in action every single day, every day. And I knew it was him because I would get home and I would think back on the events, what happened during my shift, and being very short-staffed, but I had some very good, the staff that I did have, they were very good at what they did, and they were able to follow instructions, and they were dependable. And and God was dependable. He showed up every shift, every minute, from really start to finish. Because I was short-staffed, he showed me how to set up my work or whatnot so that it would flow and not be so time-consuming, so that I could devote more time in with my patients. Even because when I started nursing, it was a breakout field for blacks, especially as a RN. And as a matter of fact, I was in the first class that they accepted blacks into the nursing program at the college that I went to. So it was a constant struggle to stay there. And in order to stay there, you can't just be in the middle. You have to be up at the near the top, you know, all constantly. If it's a quiz, it's an exam far as you're concerned. There's no such thing as a little test. They're all big because any one of them could give them an excuse to, you know, put you out. So, and then after finishing my first year of nursing, I was able to get a job as, at that time, if you had your stripe, which you got after your after completing your first year, you could practice as if you were an LPN. And so I wanted to see, really, is this what I really want to do with, you know, with my life, and could I take it too? Because I knew that my temper, and it wasn't God touched at the time the way it needed to be.
What are you trying to fix up? Okay, you lost me.
I had a tendency. I get angry because anger at two things. Anger because of the way they treated blacks, okay, and anger because you're never gonna be treated equally, whether in status or with the finances. You're never gonna, but you still have to produce quality. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't cheat the patient. You can't cheat yourself by, you know, making the wrong decisions, okay, because somebody's life could depend upon it. And I never wanted to be in that position, so I put that on the Lord. I would, you know, pray through every step of the way. Lord, help me to do this. Help me to, and so when I look at what he would do every single day, every shift, when I thought about the codes that I had without a doctor being present, just going on, you know, God would tell me, go start another line, you know, you do these things, because my thing was, let's prevent this thing. Let's keep this code from happening. So if it takes me, you know, starting another IV line, just in case the initial one fails, I already got that set, so I don't have to be poking around if the patient did go downhill. And those were the things. That's why I said the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. God would order my very steps from the time that I walked in until the time that I walked off the job on my shift. And I couldn't do nothing but to thinking, you know, it was really remarkable, the people that he put around me to make it possible for the shift to go properly and for the patients to thrive. My patients survived. They didn't just survive, though. They would thrive. They, you know, it was just remarkable the way the Lord would work within the staffing that I had, and within the whole atmosphere of the, you know, if someone, like, there'd be somebody that didn't like me, you know, but there'd be the other ones that would, you know, were so supportive that it would make the one that didn't like me look bad. As a matter of fact, I had a incident where I had gotten this job, and before I had gotten this job, one of the staff that I had worked with at a previous job was already there, and when she found out that I was coming, she talked about me so negatively. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that. See, this is how good God is, because I knew nothing about the things that she was saying about me. And it was months after I had started, and it was off my probationary period and everything, that one of the nurses told me, she said, "You're so nice to Miss So-and-so." I'm not going to put her on Front Street. "You're so nice to her. You speak to her. You're so nice to her. But, you know, she talked about you like a dog before you got here." She said, And so we were expecting some kind of, monster to come. She said, but you're very good at what you do, and you so nice to her. She said, and I noticed you always speak to her with a smile on your face and ask her how she's doing and what, and she don't like you at all. And so I said, well. And the Lord prepared me for that, because when I was speaking to this lady, it wasn't in me, in my heart. You know what I'm saying? But the more I did it, the more genuine it became, until by the time by the time I found out really what she, had done before I got there, it made me feel good. Well, thank you, Lord, that I got rid of that, because I wanted to kill her at that other job. That's really how I felt.
Wow. Did you all hear that? The medical staff, the nurse. Were you a triage nurse?
Yes.
Triage nurse wanted to kill somebody, okay? But see what God does. And you see, she got crumped, because that was one of her gifts. Taking care of people. The compassion, the nursing in her. And that is so good. And this is what happens when we allow God to use us, when we allow God to actually put us in our purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And then we follow what God is doing.
That's right.
How he's doing certain things in our lives. We may not be able to trace him all the time, but we can trust him. And the same as you were trusting God to get you through, because I remember when you went to college, when you started out, I remember, after graduation from high school and everything, I went a different direction, but I thank God for bringing us back together.
Yes, I do too.
And especially, this call, because it was just last week when you called and asked me, okay, what can I do? Just what can I do? And I said, well, I just can't drop it like it's hot like that. I have to meditate. I have to see what God is saying and how. And you said, what can I do tomorrow? Yeah, she yelled at me too. What can I do tomorrow? I said, well, I can't tell you. I don't work like that. I mean, I just have to, I have to float in my purpose and how I do things. Mm. And lo and behold, the Lord set this entire production up. Not only for you, not only for me, but for others out there as well. And I'm so grateful. I'm so happy to see that spark back into your eyes again. I'm so happy for what you've done today and being in your purpose. And I'm looking forward to a cake. I'm looking forward to a pineapple upside down cake. That's one of my favorites, I heard. And I want to tell all of you, it's just been a joy. It's just been a blessing to allow us to come into your homes again and to be in your hearts. And I want you to always remember, you can reach us. You can reach us at info@brendabronner.com. And our website is NLCW Worldwide. Yeah, that's what it is. .com. And I want you to know that we have enjoyed you and we have enjoyed our time together. And I want you to always stay tuned to us every Monday night at 7 o'clock right here. And we'll be happy to be a blessing to you. And I want you to make sure we do get some emails. And I do want you to always know you can call us too at 678-771-3086. And again, our guest for today has been Deborah and Blankumsee, and we've enjoyed our time together, and we'll be back next week with more of the creation. We love you, and we just ran out of time, but we thank you for your time. God bless you.
God bless.
You are. You are the source of all creation. You are the blood, the water, quintessence of life. You are true to heart, great in depth, vital in power, my Lord, my calm, the source of all creation. You are the wonders, effervescent splendors of joy, my soul, my heart panting for you. You are my Lord, my peace, the source of all creation. You are tearing it down, the nuance, grief, abuse, and misuse. Kindred unto thee, no more design.